So, you've decided to trip on mushrooms or your choice of psychedelic magic. Whether it's your first trip or your 101st trip, here are 10 important reminders for you before you embark on your cosmic adventure. Be sure to stick around till the end to get my free mushroom trip checklist. Here are 10 essentials you need to know before your next mushroom journey. Number 1, intention. Before you do any psychedelic trip, ask yourself, why am I doing this trip? Why now? What do you want to learn? Never do a trip without intention. Intention is like a lighthouse that guides you through the trip. So if or when you experience a challenging moment during the trip, you have your intention. You know why you're going through this. And in a funny way that you can't predict, your intentions will manifest themselves during the trip. I've even intended for business advice and gotten it on a mushroom trip. So it doesn't have to be something spiritual. It can be something health related, relationships, entrepreneurial, financial, whatever is your most pressing need or your most difficult challenge right now that you need an extra hand with. Ask the mushrooms for help. Ask the mushrooms to guide you, to show you what you're not seeing. That could be your intention, by the way. Show me what I'm not seeing. Show me what my blind spots are. Number 2, preparation and environment. Double check your environment. Make sure it's comfortable. Make sure you have privacy. Make sure you've set aside the time, that you have no urgent business to take care of. Make all the arrangements you need to make ahead of time. I recommend low lighting, a great music mix to guide your journey. Check out mushroomplaylist.com for some shroomy mixes. Prepare some blankets and pillows. Have some water nearby. Put your phone on silent and turn off notifications. As one person commented on a previous video of mine, you want to be in a comfortable place to melt away. And I couldn't agree more. Number 3, be prepared for a bumpy takeoff. Now, some trips can be light and fun all the way through. But if you sense that you may have some baggage to work through, don't be surprised when the going gets tough. I always remind myself that the first 2 to 3 hours are not necessarily going to be fun, and that's okay. That's good. You're looking at your shadows. You're looking at things that you don't want to see in yourself, and you're healing those parts of you. You're forgiving those parts of you. You're loving those parts of yourself with the help of the mushrooms. But to get to that point, it's not a 5-minute journey. The way I perceive it is you go into the trip one person and you come out another person. You go into the trip with one type of vibration and you exit the trip at a higher, different vibration. But in order to raise your vibration, it's a process. So just hang in there when the going gets tough. Accept it. It's all part of the journey. Number 4. Remind yourself to surrender. Bad trips often come from resistance. If you surrender and flow with wherever the trip wants to take you, and you don't fight it, you're going to have a transformative experience. It may still be challenging, but you're going to flow through it. If you resist the trip, if you fight the mushrooms, that's where you get into dicey territory. When you're in a difficult moment and you feel some sort of stress or panic, remember that usually the best thing to do is to do nothing. I talked about this in a recent video about life, and this equally applies to mushrooms. When you're facing a challenging moment in a trip and you feel stuck, just get still. Observe, listen, breathe. And I promise you, the trip will shift. Something will shift in the trip. You will gain a new understanding. So just come back to neutral. Come back to that stillness within, even when you feel stressed out or panicked or anxious. Remember, you don't have to do anything. Allow yourself to feel the emotions, process what's coming up, but when the going gets tough and you don't know what to do, simply do nothing. Surrender to what's happening. Number 5, remember, whatever happens during the trip is part of your trip. There is no such thing as outside of the trip. Sometimes the reason people fall into so-called bad trips is because something happens that they perceive shouldn't be happening. and they throw their hands up in the air and they say, "That's it, my trip is ruined." And by proclaiming that or thinking that, they ruin their own trip. So just remind yourself that everything that happens in the trip, good or bad, is part of your trip, and it's there to teach you something. If you include every event as part of your psychedelic container, then you get to work with it. If you exclude it and you say, this thing that is happening is disturbing my trip, now you're separating yourself and you're creating unnecessary suffering in that separation. One person in the comments put it beautifully. They said, "There are no bad trips. You don't always get what you want, but you will get what you need. So be willing to surrender to the experience and do not fight it." Number 6, stay curious and open-minded and learn to dance with the mushrooms. Be open to learning new things. After all, that's probably one of the core reasons that you decided to trip in the first place. So always maintain an attitude of a student. I'm here to learn. Whatever is shown to me, whatever I experience, I'm going to be curious about it. I'm not going to try to control the trip or control everything that I'm experiencing. I'm going to collaborate with the mushrooms. I'm going to dance with them. It's a partnership. You're not driving the car during the whole trip. You're in the front seat, you have a great view, and you can suggest things to the driver, but the mushrooms are driving the car. They're taking you on this journey. So put on your seatbelt, relax, and enjoy the journey. Number 7, when in doubt, meditate on love and gratitude. Just repeating the words, "I love you," or "I love myself," or "I forgive you," or "I forgive myself." Try saying this out loud or in your mind and repeating these mantras. That can unlock new levels in the trip. I'll never forget, on one of my trips, I had this moment of pure unconditional love, and the words "I love you" were activated in my trip. And I felt like I had won the lottery. The feeling of "I love you" and the realization and the awareness that those words unlocked for me, it felt better than winning $300 million. I felt like the luckiest person in the world to be able to experience that unconditional love. That moment was a reminder for me of the eternal truth of love and the eternal frequency of love. And I think that's one of the core lessons that the mushrooms always teach me. Try and activate that lesson by meditating on love, self-love, gratitude, and forgiveness. At the end of the day, that's kind of what it all comes down to. Number 8, dialogue with the mushrooms. Remember that in your trip, you can speak to the mushrooms. You can request things from the mushrooms. You can ask them to go more gentle or to give you a more profound, intense experience. If you're confused or stuck on a specific lesson, you can say, "I need more. I need more clarity here. I need more information. Show me what I'm missing here. Show me what I'm not seeing." If you're facing a challenge in your life, bring that to the trip. Almost like bringing a challenge to a therapist and saying, "Hey, I'm stuck. I have no idea what to do here. Can you help me out?" You can speak to the mushrooms in your mind or out loud, and you'll receive answers in the form of feelings, images, maybe even words. All you have to do is ask, and then listen, and dialogue with the mushrooms in your mind. I love how one person put it. He said, "Listen and speak to the mushrooms. Whether you believe it or not, the mushroom speaks, teaches, and shows a lot of messages through the visual content, the emotional content, and through speaking directly to you." And this is beautifully put. I 100% agree. Treat the mushrooms like a sentient being, because it is. It's a sentient energy that you can communicate with, learn from, be guided by, and get answers and advice from. Number 9, trust in the catharsis. So sometimes you go into a trip and you end up in a hairy situation, a difficult place, an emotional place that feels like grief, sadness, maybe betrayal, rejection. The mushrooms can bring up a lot of old baggage up for you to look at, to work at. This is good. But when it gets intense, too intense, remind yourself that you will find clarity and light by the end of the trip. There is a light at the end of this tunnel. There's been moments in my trips where I thought, I cannot imagine how I'm going to navigate out of this dark place that I'm in. I can't imagine what could possibly happen in the next 3, 4, 5 hours to alleviate the pain that I'm feeling. But always, without exception, I find catharsis at the end of the journey. Like going through stormy clouds, and finally the sun breaks through and you go, I knew it. I knew the sun was there. I just forgot it for a little while because I couldn't see it. The clouds were too dark, too dense. But it's there. I see it now. And the mushrooms are so good at doing this. They show you the light that has always been there. And it may take 6 hours, it may take 8 hours, but trust in the catharsis, trust in the light, trust that by the end of the journey, you will see those rays of sunshine. Number 10, just go with it. Whatever happens in your trip, just go with it and relax and stay centered. And if you don't know what to do, get still and listen. Or dance to the music. Find a way, any way, to flow with the waves of the trip, like surfing in the ocean. If you miss a wave, don't worry. If you stumble and fall, don't worry. Don't focus on the single wave. Just focus on the general flow of your trip, and you're going to be golden. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like this sort of content, please subscribe to the podcast and also check out the YouTube channel for more shroomy insights. And for more details on what to do before a trip, during a trip, and after a trip, check out my free mushroom trip guide at mushroomchecklist.com. It's a free PDF and audio that I've put together with my best tips on what to do before, during, and after your psychedelic journey. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.